Okay, the latest news coming in is that the judge has allowed the writ appeal and the single judge order has been set aside. This is the latest news coming in, and he says that the producer can amend the prayer in his writ petition. So this is the latest news that is coming in, which is that the single judge's order has been set aside. This is the news that is coming in right now.
Lata, what does this really mean then if the single judge's order has been set aside? What does this say about Jana Nayagan's fate?
Well, you know what this means is that the single judge didn't give CBFC enough time to appeal or to present their case and just gave the verdict. But right now, what everybody is saying is that, that the movie will release on 30th. There is a lot of rumors going around this, but this is not true, because if the single judge's order is set aside, then it will probably go to a revising committee. That is what is likely to happen next.
All right. And how central is this issue of this film being sent to a revising committee after cuts were allegedly accepted as we speak right now?
See, it is important that it goes to the revising committee, if at all that is what the judge pronounces. If that happens, then we'll have to see, the certification that is issued, and then, of course, the release date. From what I hear is that the producers have reached out to overseas distributors, giving a release date of February 6th. That is what I'm hearing right now.
So, Lata, just to clarify, that's allowed? Producers are allowed to enter overseas markets even though this movie is being stalled here at the moment?
No. This is they will see the likelihood of the movie releasing. See, at the end of the day, they will still have to figure out, the theaters and so on and so forth. So if there is a possibility, then they will obviously reach out to overseas buyers and see, distributors and see the theater availability and so on. This is a normal process that happens. Of course, it completely depends on the final verdict by the judges today in the Madras High Court.
Right. Lata, we're just quickly getting in a word from Vijay as well. Do stay on with us. Vijay, what's the latest you're picking up from the Madras High Court today? We are given to understand through the information that Lata has disclosed that the single judge order has now been set aside. What does this mean for the producers and the film?
No, it is again a setback for Jana Nayagan team because, Chief Justice bench had said that the writ appeal filed by the CBFC is allowed, and he also orders, he had also ordered for set aside of a single judge order, which means a single judge order which allowed CBFC to grant U/A certificate for Jana Nayagan movie is set allowed. This verdict is seen as a setback for team Jana Nayagan and especially production house, because the Chief Justice made observation in order saying that the single judge should have given a time for CBFC to file counter affidavit. So he had also ordered to the matter also remanded back to single judge for fresh hearing, which means again both the parties will file a petition before the court. They will hear both the sides, and again the matter is with the single judge bench. So again the fresh petition, all will start the fresh from today. I know this is seen as a great setback for the team Jana Nayagan.
Right. In fact, joining us for further clarity at this point, Vijay, is Veera as well. Veera, thank you so much for making time for us. From a legal standpoint, considering all that's coming from the Madras High Court so far this morning, who holds the advantage now?
Absolutely setback for Jana Nayagan. There is no clarity yet. The suspense over when it will release and when the legal battle will end will continue. As Vijay was just pointing out, what really happened, just for the sake of understanding, let me just put this straight. The single judge had ordered the CBFC to issue certification for the film. The order was challenged by the CBFC before a division bench of the Madras High Court. Now, after hearing the matter, the division bench has referred the matter back to the single judge. It has said that the single judge ought to have given CBFC time to make its case and sent the matter back, and a fresh hearing will go on before the single judge. Now, when that will start, how that process will play out, we'll know in the next coming days. but it means that the legal battle over Jana Nayagan continues over whether the CBFC should grant its certification immediately, whether it has to go back to a review committee. It'll be interesting to watch what the CBFC does as the hearing starts again before the single judge.
Indeed. Let's revert to Vijay Gopal Muralidharan, who's outside the court premises, who joins us with a live update. Vijay, what are the producers' immediate option as we speak, and what's the latest coming in from the High Court at the moment?
No, production house has very less option because the division bench of Madras High Court had said that the single bench will hear the petition as a fresh. So again, both the production house and CBFC have to file their arguments before them, and CBFC has to file the counter affidavit before the court. So again, everything is before the single bench now. Again, the court will hear all the arguments for the both the side. But we have to wait and see what is the full order, whether the court had set any timeline for this. We have to get a full order very shortly. We will get a full order for a clear picture. But as of now, as we speak, with the few lines from the verdict, it is very clear. It is a great setback for Team Jana Nayagan because there is no clear information when the movie will get released. It is nowhere near to, because there were some predictions movie may get released on January 30 or at least by February first week or second week. But now with the court division bench referring the case again to the single bench, now the case will again before the single bench to start the hearing. So this is seen as a great setback. Again, the production house will argue before the single bench court. But however, it is very clear the production house has very less options. They may accept the court observation. They may allow CBFC to refer the movie to the revision committee after one member of the examination committee raised few issues. So now probably the production house may accept the CBFC's argument, saying that they may refer the movie to the revision committee, and again the revision committee will watch the movie and they have to issue the fresh certificate for the Jana Nayagan movie.
Vijay, so is it fair to say that the producer has lost all interim relief, or is there still any legal window left before the big release? Vijay, just hold your thought for a moment. I'm given to understand Veera Raghav has a point to make. Veera, go ahead.
Parameshwar, there was no interim relief. From the start, the relief was categorical when the single judge had ordered the CBFC to grant certification. That order was challenged by the CBFC before a division bench, and now the matter goes back to the single judge after the division bench sets aside the single judge's order, which means that the hearing will have to go over again. Let's not forget that this is a state that's heading into elections. We're expecting elections around second, third week of April, which means that the model code of conduct will come in place sometime in March. So when this film is going to be released right now is still a suspense. There was talk that it would be released by the second week of February, the Valentine's Day weekend. Now there's a question mark even over that. What happens before the single judge bench? Whether it will go back to the review committee, as Lata and Vijay have been pointing out, what the CBFC says and the arguments unfold there before the single judge, again, who had initially delivered the order for the CBFC to issue certification, will determine the future of Jana Nayagan. So the key headline right now is that the question mark over Jana Nayagan's release and certification continues. It's a setback for the movie makers at the court because they had moved the Supreme Court, remember, and the Supreme Court had told them to go back to the High Court. So there seems to be very little legal recourse left for them except to go back and argue their case afresh before the single judge.
All right, little legal recourse at this point, as Veera Raghav is highlighting. Vasudha Venugopal is also with us for further clarity. Vasudha, speaking of elections, how much pressure does Vijay's political transition add to the stakes of this release and all that's going on, considering the Madras High Court's latest words coming in too?
Well, Parmeshwar, it's just 2 days ago that Vijay did speak about how he will not compromise for anything, and he has entered politics to win. He has talked about how victory is the only pursuit, and then, he gave a rousing speech to his cadre, and now the judgment has come out. And I was speaking to people in the government today morning. They said it will all depend on what the court's order is. And now TVK sources are also telling me that they are open to all, legal processes, and they may even look at, approaching higher courts or whatever. But like Veera said, the window of option seems to be reducing, seems to be tightening right now. This was a movie that was supposed to be released on the 9th of January. And the crux of the argument was always that that the producers, applied through the Tatkal scheme, and that one member of the examining committee had a problem, and the CBFC chairman wanted to send it to the revising committee. In fact, Mr. Parasaran, who was appearing for the producers, had also argued that the same cuts cannot be, reinstituted if the movie has to be sent back to the revising committee. But now the window of option seems to be reducing. Politically, this is a big setback for Vijay, because the legal hurdles will continue for his movie. And this movie was supposed to not just rouse his cadre and supporters, but also, in some ways substantiate his claim as, the chief ministerial candidate. He has already announced that he will go solo. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out, especially when it comes to his fans and his supporters.
Right. Vasudha, do stay on with us. We'll continue to track the latest reactions as well coming in. At the moment, Sam Daniels also with us. Sam, a setback for the movie makers as their hurdles continue with little legal recourse available at the moment?
That's right, Parameshwar. As of now, it looks like this issue could turn into a long-drawn legal battle, as the Chief Justice bench of the Madras High Court has now directed the case to be heard by the single judge, ruling that the judge in the first place ought to have given adequate time for the Central Board of Film Certification to respond, to file their counter in this case. The original plea by the producers was that needlessly the film was referred to be reviewed by the revising committee, and the producers had made all the cuts recommended by the examining committee, and the film certification board, they claim, had promised them to issue certification if they were complied with. And after this, when everything was set for certification, the producer alleged that the CBFC ordered for a review by a revising committee, which they had challenged in the Madras High Court, and a single judge bench had given a favorable order directing the board to grant certification, AU plus 16 certification, but that was challenged by the Film Certification Board, and now the Madras High Court has reverted that back to the single judge, saying that they ought to have granted more time for the CBFC to file their counter. The big worry is, of course, the elections are coming up. In a few weeks, we expect formal announcement to be made by the Election Commission, and Vijay being the chief ministerial candidate, whether this will, a delayed release, would it hamper the release at all? Because this could be seen as a propaganda film, and will the model code of conduct have any kind of impact? And the film producers would want to escape that, to make sure the film is released, and if at all it has any political message, it could be reaching the people. But the government or others who are politically targeting him in that sense would want to make sure it's delayed and will also come under the model code of conduct. So it's beyond the legal nitty-gritty. It could also be political, and largely the big question is, will it also come under this? As
always, Sam, thank you so much for highlighting the latest developments and also the political repercussions one should expect. In fact, to assess the industry impact, we have with us film producer Dhananjay on NDTV this morning. Thanks so much for making time for us, Dhananjay. Does today's court order, what's come out so far, what's emerging out of the Madras High Court, does it send a warning signal to the film industry?
Firstly, this judgment was not expected. In fact, from yesterday, there was a lot of positivity in the social media saying that the judgment is going to be very favorable and the certificate will be issued very soon. The film is going to come on 6th of February. All kind of positivity was going around, and unfortunately, the judges have decided in a different way, saying that the case has to be referred back to the single judge. Again, the hearing has to start. This is quite a shocker to the entire industry, because already the January month has completely lost, except for two films which has done reasonably okay. But whole industry was waiting for a big box office collection, and everything is lost because the film is not released. And now it looks like it is going to be a long-drawn political and legal journey for the film to come out. I'm saying political because this doesn't seem to be like a simple legal process alone. There are a lot of political repercussions and a lot of issues are going around. And we as an industry in Tamil cinema, we are very disappointed that it's going to take a long time before the film hits the theatre.
Thank you so much for joining us with your thoughts.